Yo, Dan,
Hello.
how are you?
Very good. How are you?
Tell me, how was the race in Taruka?
Really good. Really, really good. I think we couldn't have asked for a better first race, like a preparation. Felt like a mini World Cup. Like the whole World Cup circus almost was there, and track was super cool. But I think just to have that first like race out the way, and it be a really big race with loads of like top riders and that kind of like proper race atmosphere is perfect. I honestly couldn't have asked for a better like preparation. Now like everyone can go to like Lord with a little bit less like pressure. They've done it once. They've seen all the big names up before, and they've tried to put down like top runs real quick. So.
Yeah, so we did call last week pretty much every day, and we do these calls kind of every day. But today comes with a tiny little difference because we've got the camera running, and we want to take people on our journey. We've been working on the dyno bike for what is it, like 2 years now. So yeah, a little different for us today, but where should we start?
We can go way back, maybe, even to when we met at Scott as engineers and discovered that we were on the same page in regards to lots of things in life, in bikes, in riding, and mainly thinking that DH was the coolest type of bikes and racing that you can possibly get. So it goes a long way back, eh?
Yeah, it's been 6 years now since I left Scott and started RAAW, and yeah, I guess since the very beginning we've always talked about a dyno bike, and in the first years it was obvious that it wasn't the bike to start with. That the Madonna was like the more logical start for the brand, for starting learning, actually selling and building the brand. I think we've always had that file with notes with all the ideas, and like if we would build a dyno bike, what would it look like? And I think from the beginning we've always emphasized that it's, no matter which bike it is, but especially with a dyno bike, that it's very important to define what the bike exactly is for, what it's designed for, to define the concept, and then dive into the details and dive into what it would look like. So then I think it was about 1.5 or 2 years ago that we really started to be like, all right, let's do this. Let's start actually working on it, do first 3D work. Yeah, I think the general idea is that we take people on the journey this year. We plan to have it for sale next year. If you can tell the viewers a bit more about the concept of the bike, then I think that would be a good way to start.
Yeah, I think you started off nice there. It's been, while it wasn't the first bike that RAAW could come out with, the Madonna was the best canvas to like display all the ideas of RAAW, from the philosophies of RAAW. It's always been like something that's always been in the back of our heads. And like when you slapped a set of 40s on a Madonna as well, we got even more of a glimpse of what it could look like. And no, that little working file we had, just a little place to jot notes down, was cool. And when we decided to just say like, right, let's do it, it was actually remarkably easy. I think, I think for both of us, it was super easy and super efficient in how we did it, because the concept of the bike was so clear. Like, we're both avid lovers of DH, and we both love like Champery and Morjan and that riding, and it is really like full on riding. Champery is a legendary racetrack, so it kind of, this concept that we wrote down was for bike for sending down Champery World Cup tracks was so clear and easy that all the decisions after it that we needed to make for the bike were effortless. Yeah. And yes, once we started to like pad out the geometry, then the kinematic into the 3D, it was really fast and like really efficient, and it didn't really take much time at all because we were so focused and it was so easy to do. I think because we're super passionate about it as well. It was a joy. So yeah, that's the main concept of the bike, is a bike for sending on, a bike for riding hard and going fast on. It's really if you will, it airs on that side of a race bike. And we set about with the idea that a race bike also needs to be quite a good toolbox with lots of tools inside it that you can delve into to change and adapt the bike to different riders, to different tracks, to different like feelings as well. Like even on a race day, the rider's first run, their feeling is different to their fifth run. So you need to have a bike that can adapt to that. And another thing that we wanted to focus on big time was the balance of a bike, and have a balanced front to back and up and down, and be balanced in many of the ways that or the facets that you have inside a bike. Yeah, there's so much. It's funny, a bike is so many details. I think not everyone understands how many small details are in a bike and how many are linked to each other and how you need to balance them all so well. So at least on a DH bike, it's a little bit easier because it's quite like pointy and focused.
Yeah.
Its purpose is kind of clear. It's nice. It makes it easy.
Yeah, I think the thing I really enjoyed, or like also realized when we finally built the first samples, was the idea of it being a single purpose device. It's like when you're building it, you realize like this bike is made for one thing. Yeah, it's cool that like a Jip and Madonna is a bike that can be so capable of so many things, but then it's also very like refreshing to have a tool for one job. So that was about a year ago, I would say, that we finished the 3D and communicated with Genio in Taiwan. And then it was about half a year of patiently waiting for samples.
Patiently is maybe not the best word, but
impatiently hoping that we could ride them before the season would end. But yeah, seasons in Chambéry and Montjean tend to end pretty late. And then I think it was early October 2021, maybe end of September, that we received the first samples, got them built, and spent the first days of riding in Chambéry. We also did some filming. And while that happened, and while we got the first riding in and the first feedback of like how the bike works on the track compared to the theory and the ideas and concept that we had, we also got in touch with Paul from Net Performance, and he got us in touch with the 555 team. That was around the same time where we were able to like show them the bike, go through all the details, and start the conversation. And I think fast forward to last week, where you spent the whole week and the race in Tarouca with the whole team in Portugal. That's been a very how do you describe it? Like it's surreal for sure. Like actually going World Cup racing and being able to work with a team so passionate and like so driven to be fast. So I guess for me last week, because we were on calls and you were there, but that is, if you work on a project for so long, it gets hard to like imagine what it will be like when it's out there, when it's actually being ridden. And especially now with Luke, Ryan, KJ, and Douglas, it's just, it's unreal how they ride the bikes. But
it's a bit nuts, really.
Yeah. So
we grew up on dirt and earthed, and you've still got like your Freecaster recap DVD from like decades ago. I've still got like dirts and earth that I like watch and read regularly, and I think that was our diet growing up, and I think that shaped us quite a lot in our riding and how we ride and what we think is cool, and it's really, really surreal to now be in and amongst it. It's so cool to have the opportunity to do that and make that decision. And I think that almost went hand in hand with kind of when the bike was being developed. It was clear like what the bike was being developed for in terms of like how hard you ride, how fast you can ride on it. But it kind of just went hand in hand with like, let's go racing.
Yeah.
It's like, it's what we think is the coolest expression of mountain biking. And we had this bike and we were like, nah, let's go race it. It's super cool.
Yeah.
To be amongst it, it was, still a bit like, it's still hard to believe. It's still very surreal. And like you mentioned it as well there, like development is often all very theoretical and virtual. Mm-hmm. And you arrive with like a 3D model and you're
like in your own little world for for a
Yeah,
long
you've done like
period.
your utmost best to put feelings and numbers together into this like model and so on, and you're pretty damn sure, like otherwise you wouldn't make the choices you did. But there's always like, especially nowadays with such long lead times, there's always more chance for a little bit of like, wait a minute, is
Yeah,
that right? And I still remember those first runs in Chambéry when the bike arrived. That, yeah, that feeling of like, it felt like home. It felt like an old friend already. And it was only like first run down the World Cup track
I
when it
guess that
was
was
like in the
also a bit
morning.
like the summary of how the riders felt on the bike, right? Like
Yeah,
getting
comments of,
the initial setup and making them feel comfy. Like
yeah, it was nice.
yeah.
It was, I
Sorry.
don't want to say easy, but it was like you speak a lot with other people in the industry and team mechanics and so on and engineers, and you hear things. It's not the biggest of industries, and you understand that some bikes have real big traits in them that you have to spend all your tools in your toolbox fixing, and it doesn't leave you many tools left over to move around with setups and adapt the bike to riders and tracks. And I think again it was quite a nice stamp of approval for us and the bike and the choices we've made, that all the riders off a simple setup, like just getting your sags and pressures and springs right, and the balance of the bike from that, and the comfort that the riders were feeling from the get-go, like first day in Lusa on a track that was so blown out, it was properly representative of like the end of a World Cup weekend. And they were talking the same things, like comments of feeling like they're on their own bike already and comfy, and just positive descriptions of how they're getting on with the bike. And we were again in the middle of a really nice window, knowing that we have room to move left and right and forwards and backwards to adapt the bike and set up to different riders and tracks and feelings. And
Yeah,
yeah,
maybe.
really good feedback.
So the idea of also this little video series is that we take people on their journey this year. That we don't know what will be coming exactly, but we go racing and we go develop the bike further and just learn, and that's something that we want to take people along with. So we will also soon dive into like all the details of geometry, kinematics, all the ideas that were into the bike. But maybe for today, it would be interesting to talk a little bit through like call it like the toolbox concept of the bike. So the idea that with downhill racing, you go to a specific track, you're there for the weekend or even longer, and you want to make your bike work for that one track with certain weather conditions. So you can take us a bit through like the adjustments and the concept behind that?
Yeah, I think you got it right. The toolbox concept is that even on a team of 4 racers here, we've got different riding styles, we've got different weights and heights and body proportions, we've got different visions of a track and lines and what they can do. And firstly on a DH bike, the speeds, the intensity of riding are the fastest out of all types of bikes, and it's up at that ragged edge that you really need the performance. It's kind of, you can't compromise on the performance whatsoever. We come back again to the word as balance. I think like compromise has been given a bad rep in the bike industry. It's almost seen as negative, and actually every bike has compromises, and it's how you balance them. And that's a word that I think popped up throughout the whole of this bike development, is balance of the details of the bike, of the concept, of the everything in there. And with such differences between riders, riding styles and speeds, with differences in tracks and conditions, you need, up at that ragged edge, you need tools to adapt, to eke out that last little few % of performance and speed, because it's really like the winning margins now are so small compared to decades past. And so you're really like after that little last 1%. And the idea with the toolbox for the bike is that we have tools in our toolbox to do that. We have adjustability at the front, at the back, and in the middle to change the geometry of the bike statically, change the balance of the bike, and also change the way the bike dynamically rides through the suspension as well. And it's all based around the fixed concept was there, because the concept was so clear about a bike to send down Champrey World Cup track, if you will. We knew things about where, say, the head angle should be, where the BB height should be. We were so confident on where that would be. And then that left us the ability to have fine adjustments on the frame. So we can adjust finely up and down to really like subtly change the bike. And it always surprises me still how small and subtle a change can be on a bike and the effect that has when you ride it. So the ability to change head angles and reaches, BB heights and progression and chainstay lengths all combined together is fantastic. It's an amazing toolbox to dip into, and I'm really excited as we get more time with the team and the riders to experiment with the different setups and for them to feel how that changes the bike, and for us to understand how they feel with the different setups and find for them the different setups, so that we can rock up to a new World Cup and know which settings we're already going to put it in, know where we're at, but anyway, safe in the knowledge that our bike in all the mid settings, like in all the middle of the windows of all the adjustments, is well sorted.
Yeah,
is already a comfy, fast, balanced bike to go with. But we've got all these little tools. And every single person that I spoke to at the World Cup, like people would stick their head around the Van Door and like go, sick looking bike, mate. And then you run them through the settings and so on, and they're stoked. They're like, oh, cool. Like you can change all that. And like, wow. Like, look, Bruni, like Ryan was riding down the track and stopped, and Bruni literally looked at him and went, nice bike, mate. And he was like, cheers. And then Bruni's like, it's super cool, like a new brand DH Racing. Like cool. He was stoked to see it and stoked to see the bike, and
I can't wait.
Yeah, it was mint to have the bike out there in the public. It's mint. Everyone was loving it. It's not like we were patting ourselves on the back, but it's that thing again where you design it it lives in a virtual world for so long before you even have the first samples, and human nature will dictate that you doubt yourself a little bit, and it's cool to have that reassurance and the kind of thumbs up that the choices we've made have been good choices, and that we've ended up with a bike that is working well from the team feedback and how we've come away from Lusa and the race in Taruka, and also like the feedback from just other riders and races there. Yeah, like thumbs up that it looks like a cool bike, and it's wicked.
All right, so yeah, I can't wait for Lord. We'll all be there, and you will be joining the races with the team as well as a race engineer. That will definitely be a very valuable thing for both the team and for us to just learn this year and gather experience. And I think that is what we want to show to the public this year. Just show our journey. And is there anything you'd want to add to today's conversation? Because otherwise, I think we go ahead with some of the footage from, I think it was the third day of riding we did in Champrey. Filming with Craig.
I mean, it was obvious to christen the bikes down the World Cup track. So
yeah, nice. Yeah, that was good. That was, I think, a week before the snow arrived, right?
Yeah, it was perfect time.
Nice.
Got it. I think we were both really somehow made ourselves at peace with the fact that we might not ride them here before the lift shut. And then when it was actually on that we could, it just couldn't sleep. It was crazy.
It was definitely
crazy good.
At least one of the best days of last year, if not one of the best days of longer.
Yeah, it was sick. Now, maybe just a point about the race engineer thing is cool is that, again, racing is such a high-level thing, and its speeds and intensities are so high. You and I have got the experience that we developed this bike, and we want to be there and help out with the team and the racers in their pursuit of speed. We're all on the same page, and there's the mechanics, there's the suspension tech guys, there's the racers themselves. So it's our like offering of lending a hand and having a good link between the riders and the racers and the engineering and RAAW, and like we can help them out in making sure they're on the fastest setup, on the comfiest setup, and helping out with all the measurement and experimentation and developing the bike further. But it also works both ways in that synergy that their input also will naturally come into RAAW and help develop the DH bike further and the other bikes further. And it's just, the team's amazing. They're so easy to get on with, such a good laugh. And it's just, yeah, I've come away from Lusa and Taruka with just like, I can't wait to get into Lord and the rest of the World Cups and yeah, get in amongst it again. It's just the coolest thing in the world is racing. DH racing, can't beat it.
It's definitely a dream come true.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I think we'll leave it there. And yeah.
Yeah, mate.
Let's chat tomorrow, maybe without a camera again, and then we'll see how we continue these video series, which details we dive into next. Yeah, I think the next chapter, the next video will be about racing, about the team, about the people behind the team, and should be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Let's go.
All right.
Let's do it.
Then,
all right, mate.
Have a nice day and speak soon.
Sweet. Speak to you in a bit. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.